What's up? Sure. Has the bell rung yet? Oh my word. Why you guys wait till class starts to go to the bathroom?
So then you know that we're here.
No.
You want to do it?
Hey, unlock that door. Chris, unlock the door. All right. No, what's his name did?
What's his name?
Rowan.
Oh, that's such a
Rowan. Oh, what do you do? Good luck.
He was just messing around with it. Oh, what do you want? Good news or bad news?
bad.
I want everything bad news always.
Awful, terrible news.
So this is a tough chapter. I mean, it's no joke. It's tough. That's bad news. Good news is you all passed your test. You know, yeah.
I see it.
The lowest grade was a D. I mean, D is just barely passing, but I'm just saying as a class. So D will not make you repeat a course. It's certainly not something that we try to get, right? But a D is not a failing grade, right? It's just not what we would like. All right, quiet, please. Quiet, please. So we started off last chapter by me saying, here's the first challenging chapter. You got to pay attention. I'm going to teach you new stuff every day, which I did. You guys rose to the challenge, and we did I just marked you out. You guys rose to the challenge, and we did, listen, please. Listen. You guys rose to the challenge, and we did fine on it. You know, good news, that absolutely is a good news. Some of you, this was the first test you've ever passed in 2 years that I've given you. So you did very well. Some of you, I think only one person, 2 people got a perfect score, and everybody else somewhere in between.
I got perfect score.
Take a guess. The boys are letting me down. Girls are like slaughtering all the people.
Who was it?
It was Josie and Anna. Josie and Anna.
You got one of those right.
It was Anna, wasn't it?
It wasn't Josie.
Anna and Brandy. Right.
Oh, Josie.
I know I didn't do
All right, so boys, you guys need to step it up and stop letting the rest of us Y chromosome endowed people down.
Did I do okay?
All right,
The chromosomes.
you came close.
Did I do
I
good?
came close.
Yeah, both of you came close. All right, a couple people missed like one little tiny thing, and it would have been perfect. So I was very happy. Comparing those scores against previous classes, I'll just say we have the potential, if you maintain what you did last chapter, of doing very well this year, like having no one fail the class. But it's got to stay, and that's the good news. The bad news is it doesn't ever let up. It's like there are no easy days. They're all challenged, today included. Today is, if you stay with me, you're going to say I'm full of it because, oh, this was easy. But the issue is that if you just nod off for a little bit, it's just weird stuff every day, and every day there's more of it. It doesn't ever stop. And unlike 8th grade and before, and where all we're doing is adding or we're subtracting, multiplying, dividing. It's new stuff and weird stuff every day. Today's not a hard day in the sense of what I have to teach you, you'll get it immediately. But if you don't pay attention, you're not going to get any of it. It's just strange stuff. So please, show the attention that you did for the last chapter, and we'll get equally, it'll turn out equally as well. All right. There's one thing that we left off on exponents. That if it was me making the chapter, I would have put it in the last chapter. They don't. They put it in this chapter. I understand why, but it kind of fits more with last chapter than this chapter. If you haven't already know, Friday we're doing a career day for 9th and 10th graders, so it's designed for more so for 10th graders. I mean, they're a year away from applying to college, right? You apply for college or you make your college decision sometime between junior, senior year. So their junior year is when they're looking at a college, is the one I want to go to, or this is the one that I want to find out more about, or this is the one I'm going to visit, that sort of thing. So we wanted to start doing some career day stuff. So there'll be no academic classes on Friday. You guys will go to a special schedule. All the ninth graders, both classes will be in one class together. There's only 4 people in the other class. You all go. We had a bunch of guest speakers. We can't have oh, I want to be an anthropologist when I grow up, and absolutely have what you want to do necessarily. But we have some people that you need to just at least listen to their story, right? It may not be anything that you're interested in, but their story will be of how what do they have to do in order to get the job that they're currently in, and then what they do on a daily basis. So some of you, it may be exactly what you want to do. Others of you, it may not be anything you want to do, but their stories of what happened between high school, college, and their career will be an interesting one. And then the last thing we'll wind it up is the college counselor will come and talk to you about, at least in general terms, the college application process. Like, what does it mean? Like, what do I do as a freshman? What do I do as a sophomore? What do I do as a junior? What do I do as a senior? And how that all works out. Yeah.
Do we really have no school that Monday?
Yes.
So we have a 5-day
So you have a 5-day weekend,
That's amazing.
which is clearly why we need to do a review when we get back. Yes. So we will be meeting because of COVID. We can't meet with everyone. We are going to be meeting with anyone that has a D or an F. So the invites will be going out today or tomorrow to your parents. So if you have all A's and B's, although we'd love to meet with your parents, we can't, because, well, COVID, there's a physical limit on how many people can be in the building. And then 2, we just want to put our emphasis on getting those peoples with D's and F's into getting C's and B's and A's. So those are the parents that we're going to be meeting with. So most likely you already know if you're going to be coming to parent-teacher conference or not, because you know which category you're in. All right. Okay. So here we go. Here's your homework. Copy down. I don't start with 5-1. I don't like that one. I'm going to start with 5-2. We're going to do 2 days of it. And like I said, today's class it's a pretty easy process. But if you don't pay attention, you're not going to figure this out come test day or even quiz day. Tristan, I just got to say publicly in front of everyone, Tristan, he did well on his test, right? And he stated himself a couple times during the chapter, oh, I get this. Oh, this makes sense. I'm just going to claim that it was because he forced himself to actually do the work, do his homework, and then ask questions, and then notice patterns. So good job, Tristan. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not going to claim that this is, crazy hard. It's just that if you were presented this without any explanation, you might get some of this wrong. All right, 1 through 20 all. This is done pretty quick. If they give you some really ugly numbers, it may take a little bit of time to reduce the fraction, but for the most part, the simple ones, and this is pretty quickly done. All right, so it's called dividing monomials. Last chapter was all about multiplying. Now we're going to do divide, although I would argue I could have done this in last chapter as well too. All right, so this is the meat and potatoes of Algebra 1. There's 3 main things, which is solve equations, graph linear equations, and solve and graph quadratic equations. We've already done the first one. Like we're done with that for the year. Yeah, you'll solve equations occasionally, but for the most part, we're on the last 2. Right, our book does it a little bit weird. Most algebra books, they do the linear equations next, and then they go into quadratics. Our book breaks quadratics into 2 parts. So we'll do a little bit of quadratics now, then we'll do a whole bunch of linears, and then we'll come back at the end of the year for getting back to quadratics. That should mean probably nothing to you right now, other than the fact that we're going to be doing some hard stuff every single day. So this chapter is all about something called factoring polynomials. None of you know how to do this. And I find this the most enjoyable chapter. It also stimulates different parts of your brains for some people. Like we're going to be doing something that isn't a straight up necessary calculation, requires you to do a little bit of thinking. And for some of you that, that's something you haven't done yet in math. Some people get this like I'm not saying, okay, if you got an A before, you're guaranteed to get an A. Some people can factor polynomials like no tomorrow. Like it's amazing how quickly they can do this. Other people, right, myself included, we got to do it. It takes us a little bit of time to factor polynomial. I just don't want you to judge, well, I suck at this because I don't know if Anna will be good at this, but maybe she will be. But if Anna can yell out the answer in 10 seconds, and it takes you 2 minutes, it doesn't matter. You just need to get to the right answer. But some people clearly can factor polynomials really amazingly well. All right, factoring polynomials has something to do with solving and graphing quadratic equations. Like I said, right now this should just be weird words that are on the board right now. Today we're going to do something that's in the process of factoring and solving quadratics. All right, this is what we're doing, right? Let's see, 5 to the 6th over 5 to the 2nd. Well, we know the fraction bar actually means division, right? And it's like maybe there's a rule. So let's see, we had a rule for adding polynomials. We had a rule for multiplying polynomials. We had a rule for power to a power. Now we're going to get a rule for dividing polynomials. So I'm going to explain to you where the rule comes from. Chris, what does this mean, 5 to the 6th?
5 times 6.
Absolutely doesn't mean that.
Wait, no.
5 times
5
5
times 5 times 5 times 5.
6 times, right?
5 times 5 times 5
So
times 5.
you got it. So writing in expanded form, we would put 6 5s on the top and 2 5s on the bottom. So there's expanded form, right? Well, if the fraction bar means division, well, what's 5 divided by 5? What's 5 divided by 5? So it turns out we are left with
4 5s.
on the top or bottom.
Top.
So I could write that in exponential form as 5 to the
4.
You tell me what's the rule.
That's not that bad.
What's the rule?
Chat.
See what I mean? So it turns out the rule when you're dividing polynomials is as long as you have common bases, right? You simply subtract the exponents.
Simple enough.
So let's see, we had a rule where we add the exponents. We had a rule where we multiply the exponents. We have a rule now where we subtract. But they're all paradoxes. When we multiply, we add. We do power to power, we multiply. When we divide, we subtract. So sometimes these can get a little jumbled in your head, but yeah, that's the rule. We're going to write it down formally. But I just want you to know it says if we have the same bases. If this wasn't a 5, we couldn't do this. But if both of them bases are 5, just subtract the exponents. Yeah.
What are we doing for lunch? Is it in
Okay.
here or?
All right, let's focus on the math first.
Cafeteria.
Okay,
Okay.
so this up here simply means you rewrite the base, you subtract the exponents, and there you go. Now the bigger question is, do they really want us to do 5 to the 4th? What's 5 times 5 times 5 times 5? There's no hard fast rule. If you check the back of the book, because I gave you the odd ones today as well. If you check the back of the book, most likely they wouldn't write 5 to the 4th. They'd write whatever 125 times 5
Do
is.
6 minus 2.
Okay. So please write this down, box 1. This is the rule for dividing. The rule for dividing says this. If you have the same bases, look, I got an A and an A. If you have the same bases, you take the top exponent and you subtract the bottom. Now, order matters. You don't do bottom, subtract top. Aiden, right? Okay. You write top minus bottom. We're talking about exponents there. That's the rule. But it has to be same bases. If the bases are not the same, you can't do any of this.
What do we do for bases?
If the bases are not the same, you got to expand and multiply and then divide. They won't give you any tonight that don't have like bases. Kristen's already started on box 2. You know, I didn't tell him, but yeah, it's that simple, right? We good?
Yep.
All right, let's look at some examples. So, quick review on the rules. When you're adding or subtracting, what do you do with the bases? Right? You add the bases, you rewrite the power. Okay? This is what we just had on the test, right? When you added or subtracted, when the exponents were exactly the same. When you multiply, what do you do with the powers? You add them. Remember, the bases have the same. when you have power of power, you rewrite the base and you multiply. And now we have our final rule for exponents, and that is when you're dividing, we rewrite the base and we subtract. So there's all 4 rules for dealing with exponential operations. Like there's no more rules. That's it. Okay. Eventually, we're going to see where the exponents are both positive and negative. We're not there yet, but we'll get there quickly. But for right now, everything's nice and friendly and it's positive. Okay. So to do this one, are the bases the same? Yes or no?
Yep.
So we just simply rewrite the base, subtract the exponents. Chris, the final answer is?
It's x to the 7. Still. Yes. No, sorry. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I don't know how I got that wrong.
Okay, just tell me the answer.
It's. Oh my gosh, I can't think. It's so.
Well, then tell me what to do.
Right. You do x 10 times and then x 7 times, and there's obviously the line, and then you get rid of it until you have a more.
How about we
sevens.
follow the rule? And the rule said to do what?
Are you okay, Chris?
I
I don't know.
Chris, come on, talk.
You wait. I thought you said we were supposed to do the
What is it? Why is the green dot right there? And what does it tell me to do?
a m minus 9.
Glasses.
Piper, help him out. What's the final answer?
Are you okay?
X to the 3rd.
X to the 3rd power. Piper, you can explain it to your brother. All right. So a quick note. Sierra said, well, what happens if the bases are not the same? Are the bases the same here?
No.
They're not. So you cannot do this. If I shouldn't even show you this, but I will see students who aren't paying attention. They'll get something like this, and they'll say, I don't know, well, 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 4 minus 2 is 2. It must be 16, 4 squared. Well,
When you
8 to the 4th power is a very big number. Divided by, this is just the number 4. It's not 16, by the way, right? So what would you have to do for this for real? You won't see this tonight for homework, but you got to do 8 to the 4th power. 8 times 8 times 8 times 8, and then divide by 4.
Chris, you're fine.
Yeah.
Don't let your
I'll show you.
Okay, but this one is 20.
All right. So here we go. Chris, can you solve this one?
Yes.
What do you get?
I'm sorry. You have 3 to the 3rd power.
3 to the 3rd power. You got it now. All right. 8 minus 5 is 3. By the way, the book would probably not write 3 to the 3rd. They would probably write 27. If you put 3 to the 3rd, I'm okay with that. Just the book's probably going to write this 27. Like I said, there's no hard fast rule of do you write it as 27 or 3 to the 3rd. It's 3 to the 31st power. You write 3 to the 31st power because it's just too big of a number to write on a piece of paper. 3 to the 3rd, we can simply write that as 27. All right. You have variables. The rule doesn't change. Porter, what's the answer? 8 to the 2nd power. 4 minus 2 is 2. So 8 to the 2nd power. It's not a hard rule. Okay. All right. Aiden, tell me what to do. That's not what it says.
X to the 25th power. And then X to the 18th power.
Look at the rule. What does the rule say to do?
Minus 18, and then
There you go. 25 minus 18, whatever that is the answer. Just remember the bases must be the same. Okay? So you tell me, easy or hard rule? I don't need to give you 20 of problems like this. So I'm not giving you for homework 20 problems where you're just subtracting numbers. They must be more challenging than that, and they are. But box 2 is not that challenging. Go ahead and do it real quick. Do box 2, please. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Or better yet, just say reduce the fraction.
Okay.
You're going in.
Reduce that fraction.
Deep breath. Chill.
Chris, are you already done?
With the first one, yeah.
Aiden, are you done? Anybody struggling?
No.
Sarah, thumbs up, thumbs down? Okay. Sarah? Is 4 the same as 4? Is it the same number? Okay, then all you do is subtract the exponents, top minus bottom. So you rewrite 4, and then you write 10 minus 7. 10 minus 7 is 3. So the first one is 4 to the 3rd power. for the third power can be written also as 64. Okay? 4 times 4 times 4. Yeah. Say again? I know you are. That's why I was walking you through it. You'll be fine. You're pretty smart. All right. If there is a weird one, Kaylee, it's this one. Kaylee, are the bases the same or different? So would the rule change just because this is a 0? So what's 70 minus 0? So therefore the answer is, right, x to the 70th power. And then this one is 75 minus 34. They're going to give you some ugly, ugly, ugly exponents. Just do the subtraction right, you'll be okay. Yes?
T41.
Say again?
T41, Terminator 41.
Okay. All right. So these are the easy ones. Are we okay?
Yeah.
All right, moving on. So now we're going to add coefficients. Coefficients are numbers attached to variables through multiplication. When you look at this one, right, you might wonder if the base is the same. Well, this says 12 and this says 3. Now remember, we're going to ignore the coefficients. We're going to treat the coefficients as a fraction unto itself. If I ignore the variables, what's that fraction say? 12/3. Could you reduce that fraction? Sure could. All right. So if we were to write this, well, 12 divided by 3 is 4. What would happen if we didn't get a whole number? What if it was 12 over, 10? Well, then you would reduce the fraction to, what, 6/5. But in this case, we can divide 12 by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Now we deal with the variables. Variables are like terms. In other words, it's the same variable, same basis.
The 4m to the third.
So 5 minus 2 is 3, so we get 4m to the questions.
None.
This is more easy medium right here. We'll get to the hard ones here in a
The hard
second.
ones are hard.
Okay? Let's look at another one. All right, this is box 3. Here we go. 20 divided by 4 is? 20 divided by 4 is? Come on. 5. M to the 13th over m to the 7th is? 13 minus 7. Okay, we got to think about 6. So the first one would be, what, 5m to the 6th power. We okay? All right. 42 and 100. Julie, what goes into 42 and 100? Julie's using the 5-second rule. She doesn't know if a bigger number other than 2 goes into it, so she's just going to say 2. That is a good technique. If you sit there and you think about 42 and 100 for long enough, eventually you're going to convince yourself that 8 goes into both of them or something weird like that. Stick with what you know. Hey, they're both even. So you might have to do it more than once. I don't know. So let's see. 2 goes into 42, what, 20? And then so that'd be 21 over 50, yes? Does anything go into 21 to 50 other than 1? 3 goes into 21. Does 3 go into 50? No, so 3 didn't work. Anybody else? I think that's it, right? So that just reduces the 21 over 50. You leave it as 21 over 50. 6 minus 0 is? So you're left with y to the 6. Plug that together with that fraction. And I did them out of order again. And there's your answer. Questions? Apparently the other one, yeah, it's the same. 20 over 4 is 5. 24 minus 11 is 13. And there's your last easy one. We okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Quick note. Hey, what's 6 divided by 6? Well, what's x divided by x?
Well, x2.
What's anything divided by itself?
Yeah.
What's anything divided by itself? So it's got to be 1. This is this idea of canceling. If you take anything and you divide it by itself, any number divided by itself, including positive, negative, there's one exception, 0. 0 divided by 0 is undefined. But any number other than 0 divided by itself is 1. We will use this here momentarily. Yes? We're going to talk about that. Okay. There's another way of thinking of this division. You're like, well, I was pretty okay with that previous rule. There's another way of thinking. I would argue it's somewhat faster. It's the same process, it's just another way of thinking about this. I like to use this second method, not for these ones that look like this. Those are pretty easy. But for the more complicated ones that look like that. All right. So here's the process. You ready? Now you really pay attention. The process is this. We go from left to right, and we do what's called split the fraction. Now you're doing this in your head. Okay? Trust me when I say this is a little bit easier. The first thing you need to do is you look at the coefficients. 8 over 28. That's a fraction unto itself. Then we match up like terms. I got an x and an x. I got a y and a y. I got a z and a z. So if you were to match this up and do what's called splitting the fraction, right? I would break it up into this fraction. Remember, I'm doing this in my head. Times that fraction. You see what I did? Times that fraction. Order, you paying attention? Times this fraction. My claim is this makes it easier. Why? Because now you're not looking at this big honking ugly thing. You're looking at little tiny pieces that look like what you did in box number 2. Look at box number 2 and notice that each one of these looks like, except for the first part, what you did in box number 2. Could you reduce 8 over 28? Okay, easy. What goes in 8 28? 2 or 4, right? 2 goes in 8 4 times, 2 goes in 20, 14. Now divide by 2 again. Or you could say 4 goes into both of these. 1/7, okay? 1/7? No. 2/7, right? Something like that? Yeah, 2/7. All right. So that's the easy part. This is the part. Now, well, here's what I want you to think about this as. Now, if you do 2 minus 4, you get a negative number and you're unsure of what to do with it. Instead, you ready? Think about how we originally thought about it. We originally thought about just this part right here, x squared over x to the 4th, as 2 x's in the top, 4 in the bottom. How many would cancel? And then you would be left with 2 x's in where? The top or the bottom? So what I think about it is this. I got 2 on the top, 4 on the bottom. If you canceled, you'd be left with -2 on the bottom. And that is what negative actually means. We'll talk about it on another day. But for us, this is what I want you to keep in your mind. That if you wrote this in expanded form and you canceled, you had 2 on the top, 4 on the bottom, you'd be left with 2 on the bottom. Are you tracking me? Okay, so I'd be left with that. I got 4 on the top, 2 on the bottom. How many would I be left with? Top or bottom? I got 7 on the top, 10 on the bottom. After I cancel, how many I'd be left with? You got to tell me if that makes sense. Okay? Now, remember, we're doing all of this in our head. What we're really doing is we're going from here to the answer in one step. Okay? So what we would do is we'd write a fraction bar. We would say 8 over 28 reduces to 1 over 7. I'm sorry, 2 over 7. We would look at the x's. We would say 2 on the top, 4 on the bottom. You'd be left with 2 on the top, 4 on the bottom. You'd be left with
2 on the bottom.
So I put 2 on the bottom. Now I go to the y's. 4 on the top, 2 on the bottom. You'd be left with
2 on the top.
7 on the top, 3 on the bottom. You'd left with,
3 on the bottom.
and you're done.
What?
That's the answer.
That looks so weird.
Okay, we're gonna do a couple
I have
examples.
a question.
All right. See what it did?
I have a question.
Said 2 on the top, 4 on the bottom. You'd be left with 2 on the bottom. For your x, 4 on the top, 2 on the bottom. You'd be left with, and I wrote 2 on the top. 7 on the top, 10 on the bottom. You left with. There you go. This part right here is just to visually show you what you do. No one actually does this. They go from here to here, but they do it one little piece at a time, and then they write their answer. We need to do one. So, box 4, here we go. Give me one long fraction bar. We're going to write our answers right here. All right, scratch work, off to the side. 32 over 20. What goes into 32 and 20? 2. 2 goes into 32 16 times. 2 goes into 20. Anything else going to 16 and 10?
Yes.
What? 2 goes into 16. 2 goes into 10. You tell me, you're lost or you're okay with that part? So we got 8 over 5, so you're right, 8, 5. We're doing it one little piece at a time, scratch through. Done with that. Now I'm going to go to my A's. 2 on the top, 1 on the bottom. How many will you be left with?
2, 1 on the top.
Anyone lost on 1 on the top? You got to be truthful and be brave and say, I don't know what you're doing there. You got 2 on the top.
Yeah.
You got 1 on the bottom. If you were to cancel, how many would you be left with?
2.
Where do you see 2?
Wait, what?
If you were to
1.
cancel, remember the previous slide, A divided by A is 1. How many will you be left with?
1.
On the top or bottom? I mean, where is it literally?
Yeah, but why does it?
I had 2 on the top. I had 1 on the bottom.
Yeah.
This is what you're doing in your head.
Yeah.
So you'd be left with
1.
on the top. So I put 1 on the top. 2 on the top, 1 on the bottom, cancels.
Yeah.
When it cancels, it goes away, and we're just left with A on the top.
And so then,
Okay, done with the A's. B's, we got 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom. What would happen? They would cancel. You'd be left with no B's. C's, 3 on the top, 1 on the bottom. What you'd be left with?
C2 on the top.
That is the answer.
Oh, okay.
That one was easy.
Okay, now for those of you that need a visual more than what I just did, well, there's nothing wrong with writing it out. Nothing wrong at all. This is what you would have to write out. I just know that usually kids pick up on this pretty quickly. They're like, what would I want to write that for? So if you can't do that in your head, that's what you got to do. 32 over 20 reduced to 8/5. 2 on the top, 1 on the bottom. You're really doing 2 minus 1, by the way, which is 1. You're left with 1 on the top. So I put 1 on the top. B over B, well, that cancels. I guess you could write 1 over 1. 3 on the top, 1 on the bottom, you'd be left with. And then you're just going to multiply straight across. Most kids do what I said, which was at the start, you write this long fraction bar, and you write the answers as you're doing them. Okay? I was left with 1 on the top. I was left with no B's. I was left with 2 on the top.
Oh, okay.
Okay? We're going to do a bunch of these. We okay? All right. Let's do these together. There's 4 of them. My claim is after you do 4 of these, you got it. All right. Long fraction bar. This pen is horrible. All right. How many 5? I got 5 on the top, 2 on the bottom. How many am I left with? 2 on the bottom. So I get 2 to the second power on the bottom. A's, 10 on the top, 15 on the bottom. I'd be left with
5
on the top or bottom.
bottom.
You got this, Chris. X's, 3 on the top, 2 on the bottom. You'd be left with.
1 X on top.
You see what I mean? It's weird stuff, yet it ain't that bad. Questions? Oh, by the way, the book probably wouldn't write 2 squared. They'd probably write 4. Okay? So their book answer would be that. But that's the same thing we got. Okay? All right. Let's do this one. Long fraction bar. 3 on the top, 1 on the bottom. We'd be left with 2 on the top. No one is being brave. That tells me everybody's got it, by the way. 7 on the top, 9 on the bottom. You'd be left with
X2 on the bottom.
2 on the bottom.
Wait, why would it? Oh wait, oh, so
7 on
negatives
top.
go on the bottom.
Yeah, that's where we're going in a couple days. But we were not. This isn't a class on negative exponents. So, but you're right.
Oh.
And Sierra figured that out as well too. Hey, what? 5 on the top, 5 on the bottom. They would all cancel. Anything divided by itself, y to the 5th, y to the 5th is itself. It cancels. So you're left with 9 squared over x squared. The book would probably write. You would probably write. Well, they probably wouldn't write 9 squared. They would write. They would probably write 81 over x squared.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm not that smart.
All right, bottom one. 10 on the top, 5 on the bottom, we'd be left with
10, 5.
5 on the top, long fraction bar. 5 on the top. Ooh, that's an ugly number. The D's, 20 on the top, 13 on the bottom, we'd be left with how many?
11.
20 on the top, 13 on the bottom? How about 7 on the top? Right? Because there are 20 on the top, 13 on the bottom. Just the D's. Because remember, we can only do this with common bases. The G's, 30 on the top, 21 on the bottom, we'd be left with how many?
9.
Did we get anything on the bottom?
It's on top.
So you just erase the fraction bar. If there's nothing left on the bottom, I guess you could write it over 1.
You can't erase the fraction bar.
If you're left with nothing on the top, though, you must leave that 1. Yeah. Yes. So it's like thinking, I don't know, I got a certain number of things on the top and the bottom, but I do want you to think about this. What we're really doing is you're canceling things, right? You're saying A divided by A is 1. So when I say there were 3 on the top, 1 on the bottom, what I'm really saying is in your mind, now do canceling. Most people intuitively can just look at the numbers and come up with this visual picture themselves. Oh, there's 3 on the top, 1 on the bottom. I'd be left with 2 on the top. Okay. Last one. You got 10 on the top, 5 on the bottom. You left with 5 on the top.
And then 3 on the bottom.
2 on the top, 5 on the bottom. You left with 3 on the bottom. J to the third. 6 on the top, 1 on the bottom. On the
Bottom.
and you can put to the first, but remember we're lazy, so we don't put the first. We're efficient. Okay. The book would probably write what 5 to the fifth is.
So this is
5 to the third is 125 times 5 is 625, and whatever that is times 5. All right, cool. Cool beans. So this is, I mean, I'll just say in Algebra 1, this is sort of more easier level than, it's medium. Okay, but you don't want to show this to anything other than Algebra 1 students. I mean, Algebra 1 students can handle this stuff. Non-Algebra 1 students, this is too much.
So if I show this to my 9-year-old.
He'll pee his pants, or she will. Right?
Little sister.
It will.
All right. By the way, that's it. That's the whole darn lesson. All right. We got 15 minutes. Okay. Here's what I would like.
rereading a book.
I'm going to listen, please. I'm going to write the first, 7 answers on the board for the homework. You guys are going to get started on your homework, and then you're going to look at the board and compare your answers with the board answer. Make sure we got this. Questions? All right. Get your books out. If you need to share with somebody, share with somebody.
Are we gonna get our
I can't because no. Can I hand them? Oh no, I can't. There's one person who didn't finish their test.
What do you mean I did?
Who left it blank.
I did finish.
So that person will be finishing their test during student advisement.
I didn't.
Okay, leaving it blank, you finished?
The whole thing.
Not the whole thing. You left 6 unanswered questions.
6?
6. So
Oh my God.
I'm not grading that.
You should. Just give them an F all across the
6
board.
unanswered?
You do it to me.
Wait, what?
192.
I am on 228 on my book.
Not
Sierra.
6 unanswered.
Write the answers down
of what?
on the board. Your handwriting is way better than mine.
That's cheating.
For what?
Write down 1 through 7.
Unanswered.
Yeah.
How did I leave
If there is no
6
exponent,
unanswered?
they expect 1.
How did you simplify?
I did not do that. There's no way. I did not. I would have never
I
did
did not
that.
do it.
Well, just reduce the guy.
Sorry.
This is the one I threw down.
You're okay. You're okay.
Then just don't.
Yeah.
Show it to you.
If I were a test, where would I be? If I were a test, where would I be? Think about that.
Thank you, Stan.
And I started grading it, and I stopped because I was like, he has to finish this test.
Wait, can I see mine?
1, 2, 3, 4. All right, it's 4, not 6.
Yeah, it is. It's 4.
So you'll be finishing that in student
Wait, can I
life.
just see mine
Alright.
really quickly?
Come here.
Yeah.
If you would have said 4, I would have been like, yeah, that's me, not 6.
Okay, so that's what, like a B, C?
See, okay.
Cool, that's cool.
It is cool. You did a good job.
So do you think I can buy one of these books off of Amazon?
What?
The answer key.
If you'd like to, I'm sure they sell it.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
When I took college math, I would always buy the teacher edition because I wanted to know what the answers were. I wanted to know I was doing my homework right. I didn't want to sit there and spend hours doing homework and find out I got every one of them wrong.
That's how my dad taught. He never showed me the answers until he graded it.
Well, there's a difference between lower level math and higher. When you get to lower level math, when it's really 2 + 5, you
Never
know.
taught me when it was that.
Yeah.
So mom, she never used letter grades or anything, and dad started doing my work, and I'm like, wait, what does that mean? Because I'd never had letter grades before.
But I want to know that I'm doing it right. And especially when there's 8 steps to get to an answer and I did step 1 wrong, then all I'm gonna be doing is all my homework wrong, and I want immediate feedback of whether I'm doing it right or wrong. And for the kids that are not going to do their homework and cheat, well, then they'll just fail their test. It's easy.
I got you 2 tests. I got this math one and I got the
Why are you taking tests on the
because I couldn't open up a locker.
Why couldn't you open your locker?
Because he slams it all the time.
Because a teacher came by and took the pencil out of your locker that you had holding it open?
No, it just got jammed.
Oh.
It just stopped working.
That was you? That was very nice. I will say that you had the only engineer type. I was like, wow, this is going to be an engineer here. Everyone else jammed spitballs in there or something like that. Yes, I know.
Wait, who
And
did
it took myself and the person that was helping me quite a while to get it out.
like lock it. But you can still open it.
This is leaking.
So you can take it out of it
Where'd you go?
and show the senators that they need to
Oh, come on. You said it. Look, sorry.
Matthew.
tell me what
Here's my locker. I'm gonna take it out.
Wait a minute. That can't be right. M's would cancel. Oh, I see.
I've actually locked it.
Oh, so you wrote the problem and the I see what you did. I just wanted to write the answer.
Sorry, I got confused like halfway through, and I was like, oh no, I'm not rewriting all of these.
No.
Right, where's your homework? Where's your homework? Get it done. Rylan, you gotta step up the paying attention class because this one's gonna kick your butt worse than the last one. Sarah, you wanna do a couple of these together? You got any paper?
I jumped from a plane over and over again and died. I told the ground when I jumped back, I got back up.
Sounds fun.
I'm dead and started
Are you sure? I just kept killing myself.
1 over 10 squared. What's 10 squared?
But that's the answer?
Yeah, because you would be left with 2 on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
What is 1 over 10 to the second power? Right on the issue.
this guy that
Maybe better than the top.
what if I drop something from the plane?
Mr. Spoopy is my best friend. You, Mr. Spoopy's your best friend. Mr. 38. You like Mr. Spoopy?
Is it an animal?
It's a ghost.
It's a black ghost.
It's not really the right kind of ghost.
It's black ghost. That's not racist. I'm describing the colors. Black ghost. He should have been white. Ghost. Ghosts are white. That's how they're supposed to be. Ghosts are supposed to be white with black eyes and mouths.
They have a question, Piper?
That's not racist. That's just rude.
So earlier when
By
we
the
had
way,
like a
Your
method
manager
for
just
the
goes from black to white.
so first
Do your math.
taking apart your or like
My finger's green.
Oh, and that's why we don't have to like.
Trying to get better based on.
Yep.
so basically that
Okay.
is
So you got dollars, you got dollars. Remember basically this.
I know.
Like the big ball, like your I feel like they're big. I feel like your it feels so weird, right?
You like fun games? You make one. Yeah. Shut yourself.
Alright, so 3 goes into both of them. So that's gonna turn into 4 goes into both of them, then 3 over 1. That get rid of those.
Which like, so you want to have 3 you would take away.
Yeah, you basically it's still divided by 4. We don't really have to write it. So that's
Yeah,
10
that's
to
way more
the third.
comfortable.
And then 10 to the third and 10 to the fourth. So that's 10, 10.
I'm
There's
so
3
sorry.
10s. 1, 2, 3. So we can count there. So that takes it up to 10 on the bottom. So then that just becomes a 1. There's nothing left. And this becomes a 10 on the bottom. So if we simplify, the 3 times 1 is 3.
Yeah.
1 times 10 is 10.
And what? So since we turn this love into a 3, you take away 3 from.
Yeah, so 12 divided by 4 is 3. We don't want to make it a fraction. It's 3 over 1. So like it's basically like what can we divide both of these numbers by? So that's how you get your total divided by 4 is 3. 4 divided by 4 is 3.
And
What about this? So this is you did this.
So this part right here. So I have 3 10s
It was kind of furniture.
up there. So I have 3 10s here, and I have 3 4s here. So if you can divide like 10 by 10, that would be those divide like cancel them out. Those cancel out. I'm left with 1. So then I have the 3 on the top from this, and I have 2 on the bottom from this. So if you want to I kind of crossed everything out, but it was yeah, so it changes to 3. Reduces the 3. You can write the whole thing out.
No, I've tried and then it got stuck.
And then call me over when you get that one done. All right, how much you get done?
One.
How many books do you have open right now that are not math books?
3.
That's a lot. Wow. Wait. Yeah. I was learning about Latin.
Yeah, come on, let's get another C.
Take 3 times 3 tens away here.
If you can get another C, I can hear you. You're past this one. Because really, typically only 3 tests per quarter. And you've already passed the first one. Hey, Sierra and Rylan. Rylan, I know you haven't finished your homework. And Sierra hasn't even started because she's writing on the answers form.
I'm the one who got an ace. Like, he's not old enough.
I'm not claiming you didn't understand.
Go off on girl.
Nathan, good? And you passed your test. Good.
She's smart.
What?
When did he
What's
die,
that?
though? How long ago?
I got a
Oh,
C.
yeah,
Josie, how long ago did he die?
Don't ask me questions.
How long ago did
What?
he die?
Well, you know that.
I will. Yeah, exactly. Ask me something that you're concerned about. Truly. Piper, you did pretty good on your test. I mean, the letters are what we want, but then you really showed me you know a lot of this. A lot of this. And you're going to pass this year because you're not going to give up. Right? But you actually did pretty darn good on it. Yeah, if you give up, that'll definitely happen.
Wait, am I getting paid for the compounds
No.
or not?
You said I might not pass. I said, yeah, if you give up, that absolutely will happen.
I mean, I've been trying like really hard.
I know. You do fine, but I'm saying I can see this going bad for you if you give up.
I get both a while ago, but last year, like, was so easy, and last year, I was like, what is going
It's high school.
on?
High school.
It doesn't. I don't feel like it's changed because we're in the same building.
Well, that has changed. But I'm saying the material is harder.
Thank you for.
You didn't do anything like this in pre-algebra. How do you know? You didn't do anything in pre-algebra last year.
I'm gonna just like you.
Thank you. I usually have some kids. I have a picture. The last time the kid did that. You see what I saw?
Yeah, I was wearing khakis and I'm wearing like a white
And
jacket.
you guys are students who don't keep it good grade.
No. Wait, Mr. Jordan.
What?
I'm meeting in the old.
No, you were departing. You were leaving me in peace.
Exactly.
Sure, Josie. Can you check the I haven't been down here. What do you mean, have I checked the Anna.
No, so
I can leave that out. Oh no, here we go. This is Halloween one.
Yeah.
Remember, khaki pants.
Wait, who did that?
Oh, I just assumed I had a long time.
Oh, wow, you're a mustache.
No, I think. Oh yeah, I did.
I'm putting my hair up. I'm wear a white button-up shirt. Have my stepdad tie my tie.
There you go.
Wear khaki pants.
Yep. Who was the gerbils that were sitting here?
Landon.
Landon is a slob.
I know.
What the? This was perfectly clean.
Landon has the habit of tearing paper.
He's got issues.
I know. I'm friends with him.
He
I
needs
think I know.
some like professional help there, you know? Go talk to some therapist or something.
Tristan.
About tearing paper, that sounds like a
Keep this.
cry for help or something.
That's Tristan. Yeah, he's weird.
Look how much paper's there. He's got a lot to cope with, apparently.
We bully him. That's why.
Why you guys bully him?
Especially me, because he's taller than me.
He's taller than everybody.
He's taller than
He's
everybody.
literally taller than Mr. Sharp.
He's the tallest kid in class.
Yeah,
I think.
he's 6'2".
That's crazy. He's probably not even done growing.
He's not.
All right, go to lunch.
I'm waiting for you to show me my
And we
test.
can't even eat
Oh, yeah.
here because we eat this every other week thing.
All right. I mean, I know you did well. I don't know if it was a B or an A, but it was something like that. Let's see. No, 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 no. Yes,
there.
68 out of 80.
What is that? Okay, 68 out of 100.
What? No,
Oh wait, 60 out of 8.
80. Yeah,
And 85, which is a B.
it's big. It's a good score. Good score.
Alright, I didn't do that, but I was hoping I would get at least a good grade on this one because of I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, and if you pay attention, you'll know what you're doing in this chapter as well too.
I always
Oh, I'm recording all this. All right, I'll have to delete this. All right, see you guys, e-learners. Ignore all the what you just heard about someone.